Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of FPL Journey to 10K, the podcast designed to specifically help players like you and me, good active players who finish in around the 100,000 mark, looking to get to that next level and push for a top 10K finish. And how do we do that? Firstly, with all the stats that we have to our devices in the FPL community, but then what really stands us apart is that secret weapon, that weapon that those other podcasts you listen to probably don't have, and that is the guidance, the mentorship, and the leadership, I'm going to say, of one of the top 5 players ranked in the world. That is, of course, my co-host, Mr. Matthew Corbidge. Matt, how are you? How was your week?
Hey, Dave. Yeah, all good, mate. All good, all good. 6 episodes in that introduction, it doesn't get any less awkward for me. Well, thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the kind words.
You're the secret weapon, Matt. No pressure. No pressure. But yeah, a bit of a crazy week, right?
Yeah, I think we both. I was on 70 points. Do you finish out on 70 points
Exactly
as well? Which a massively impressive game week rank of 6 million plus. I think that's about as low as it's ever been. But yeah, a bit of a crazy one, right? I think there was 1 or 2 clean sheets. Like every team has forgotten how to defend. Liverpool, I think, are creeping under the radar. Another really solid winning performance, which is that interesting. Like no one's really gone there. I think a few people who went Salah from game week 1 that they're probably in a pretty decent position. But a bit of a random one. Lots of people outperforming their stats, underlying stats. A lot of people underperforming it, and I think we've got a few of those players, right? So it's been a bit of a random one. I think the one bit of new information that I'm leaving with that game week with is that Liverpool are looking pretty good, and I'll be making some adjustments to consider when I can get them in. But like you said, very random one, right? So poor week for both of us, but I'm not gonna overthink it this time around.
Yeah, I think it could have been worse. As a diehard Liverpool fan, I didn't see Liverpool finding that game as comfortable as it was. Villa were a good side, been playing some good football. I was that sure that I think that was Liverpool's first clean sheet of the season.
Yeah.
So much so, I may well have played Matty Cash, my hero. And we'll come on to what happened to him. So it didn't quite work out this week. But yeah, 70 points even, and a red arrow. Didn't feel. Usually 70 points is a guaranteed green, so a very high score on week. Probably backed up by 3 hat tricks. I can't remember the last weekend that 3 hat tricks happened.
No, I think it's spot on. I can't remember it. But hey, those big scoring weeks and you're not getting green arrows. That's the perils of the effective ownership, right? It was a lot more fun before
Haaland,
you and I knew about that stat. Yeah, it was more fun before Haaland. But hey, kind of it's nice to get points anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And I'd rather have Haaland captain, and some people will have took the gamble. And I know we'll talk about next week's episode. We'll talk probably about our game week 5 chat, but I might go against Haaland. Away at West Ham's not an easy fixture, so spoilers. You might talk me out of it, but that's early doors consideration. But we are here to talk about game week 4, what happened, how we both did, thoughts and analysis, and no pressure, Matt. But because we'll probably have a bit more time to discuss what happened, there'll probably be a little bit of emphasis on how you think when you look at stats, when you address what has happened so far this season, who's looking good, and your general thought process when you look at the stats that we have available. But we kind of touched on it. This is how we both did in the game week. So both getting 70 points. For those that are watching on YouTube, there are slight differences to the teams. Not much, in all fairness, but there's a few changes there. So yeah, coming out on the same points is an interesting one. Do you want to start with yours?
Yeah, I'll go through mine. So my team's Pickford, Chilwell, Estupiñán, and Ruben Diaz. Mbomo, Fernandes, Sterling, Saka, Rashford, Jackson, and then Haaland captain, of course. And my move going into this week was Havertz out for Sterling. So 70 is below the average points, and obviously quite a big red arrow, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm not kind of overthinking it really. So going through a few of the particular players, David might seem like. We both got Pickford, so you can give your own thoughts on it. But I'm cool. Like, none of the keepers are scoring very well, right? So it's not like you made a massive mistake in someone's flight. I know Pickford is doing like atrociously well, but that was down to luck. It was actually a very good performance from him. Actually, he made a lot of saves, which was reassuring because previous game you want your keeper to be making save points, particularly a cheap keeper, and that was a bit of a concern that Pickford just wasn't making saves. But I think he got 6 saves and 2 save points from which was good. And like that goal, it was fucking funny, right? But like it's unlucky, right? So yeah, a shot off the post bounces off his head and goes in. I think that's like a 4-point swing, right? So Pickford disappointing, but luckily none of the other kind of popular kind of keepers scored well. So I'm cool with that. Estupiñán, a lot of people have got him. That was one of the differences between your team and mine. You didn't go with Estupiñán in terms of your starting 11. I think it was super unlucky. I think Brighton conceded right at the end of the game. Was it like 89th minute or so, or something along those lines?
91st, I think. It was in injury time.
Making it, it's worse.
Even worse.
Even more sorry for myself. But I think that was kind of surprising because Brighton had been poor defensively. I think statistically they probably deserved to concede a goal there. But when it's late, it's tough. But he looked good going forward. Diaz, you can give your views on how it feels to be a new Diaz owner. But I really regret going Diaz over Udogie last week. I think they were the two options I was considering when I was getting rid of Reece James, who was injured in game week 3. I brought in Diaz for the certainty of potential for clean sheets at Man City. Obviously, they've conceded 1 goal in both games since I've got him in. And like last week, it was unfortunate. This week again, they conceded in really like comedy fashion. It's like the way they concede goals is just like ridiculous. But actually, I was an interesting. So I do like looking at the stats, and especially team stats. I find it pretty interesting. Fulham actually outperformed City in terms of XG, right? So
for the game,
despite the 5-1, was it 5-1?
Wow. 5-1.
Yeah, despite the 5-1 scoreline, Fulham, I think it was like, they outperformed City in terms of XG, and Diaz and City, they deserve to concede a goal. So whatever. And like Udogie, I think he's had 17 points in the 2 weeks that I could have gone for him. Diaz has had 4, which is frustrating, but it is what it is, really. Udogie was a good pick. I didn't go there. It's kind of one of those. And then midfield, Mbeumo again. He performed great, right? So I think he scored again. That goal was quality. Like I know people sometimes scoff at form and confidence to say, "Oh, it's just stats and stuff." But you can see when a guy is on it, like Brian is on it, right?
Yeah.
Like how he took that kind of turn was, and that goal was incredible. But I think his XG was 1, right? And he got his goal, so he's not outperforming his XG. So he's great, and I found it quite crazy. Do you know when there was a big debate like last week around what midfielder do I bring in? Is it Foden? Is it Maddison? Is it Sterling? There were people who didn't have Mbeumo who like went for Maddison or for a Sterling. So I thought that was pretty crazy. But he was a great performer. Sterling, I brought in, and I'm kind of happy with it because I brought in Sterling with a 5-week game week window in mind, because I probably I'm looking at a wild card game week 9, so I need someone who's going to perform up to then. Foden, I didn't really trust. Maddison looks like a great pick, but has 2 slightly dodgy fixtures coming up in game week 6 and 7, I believe. Sterling has the best kind of the medium term run, and statistically, it could have gone any way last week. So Maddison got his great goal. I made notes of these stats. I was kind of saying now he had 0.33 XGI, so expected goal involvement. Sterling had 0.55 expected goal involvement, so it could have gone easily the other way. So I'm cool and relaxed with that. Foden, though, I think is an interesting. He got lucky, right? His expected goal involvement. Can you guess what it was?
He got an assist, right? From the way you're saying that, I'm going to assume it's probably around the 0.2 mark.
It was 0.01. I don't know if that was if that's an error, but
jeez,
it was it was nothing. So I think he did some good dribbles, but like in terms of those outputs, I think got super lucky. And then yeah, like Jackson, we'll probably talk about him a little bit. We'll both own him. Yeah, another day.
We'll definitely talk about him.
Another day, he could have been the one getting a hat trick. I mean, there might be an issue that he's just not a very good finisher or not a very good player, but I think there's enough there to be reassured, really. So yeah, 70 points, not great, but I think there's some green shoots when I look at the underlying performances of some of those players and decisions. So yeah, bit of a monologue there, mate. Sorry about that.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
I'm literally right now
guys.
on the fantasy footy fix stats.
Yeah.
And expected goal involvement for that game for Phil Foden, and he played 89 minutes of it. He didn't get subbed off early. Expected goals 0, expected assists 0.01, and he ended up with 5 points. Just to rub salt in the wounds, out of interest, was that the Aki header that should have been disallowed? Was it him that crossed the ball because it was off a corner?
Oh, was it? I think it was.
Yeah. So he shouldn't have even got that. So there you go.
Yeah, it's the thing with Foden as well. I don't know whether you were considering him like the last couple of weeks, but for me, I didn't go there when I wanted to get a midfielder in, just because it was just the uncertainty around fixtures, because there's Champions League coming like right around the corner, so that's going to come play into kind of the City attackers' minutes, and also we saw Doku. He started right, so that's a new player who started straight away. We know Silva has signed a long-term deal and is back. Alvarez is looking great, and Grealish, I think he was injured last weekend, but I don't think it's a long-term injury, right? So there's a lot of options there. So I think with Foden, he's got to score his points sooner rather than later. I think before that, before the rotation threat becomes really severe. So yeah, that's why I didn't go there. And like 5 points, I feel like for owners, he needed to score really well this weekend. And getting away with 5 points, I know he statistically outperformed what his that said, but I was kind of quite happy. I was a bit nervous going into that match. Like I was thinking he was going to get a 19-point haul, but yeah, we got away with it, which is good.
Yeah, I'm never thought about Foden, and it's going to sound stupid considering I bought Ruben Diaz in, but I hate Pep Roulette. Can't stand it. So I'm like, I just can't bother bringing in players that may or may not play. Ruben Diaz feels a bit more secure.
Yeah.
And I probably bought him in. So, I mean, yeah, so my team is pretty much the same as yours. The two major differences, Martinelli instead of Sterling. Now, going in, owning Martinelli over a Sterling or a Maddison felt horrendous. I was thinking similar to you and Foden there. I thought Sterling could smash double points easy. Maddison could smash a double points return very easily.
Yeah.
Decided not to. I thought I'd annoy myself more transferring Martinelli out for a 4 and then not paying off. If Martinelli happened to all of a sudden get a goal and an assist, so I decided not to do anything, and it worked out in my favour. Go against Sterling, I'm 7 points better off than if I did the transfer with the hit, and against Maddison, I think I'm 2 points better off. So it worked out in my favour not doing the transfer. So holding it. The other one the transfer I did do this week, I had to get rid of Luke Shaw because of the injury, so it was kind of forced. And I went Diaz again for the clean sheets. Best defence in the league. He's probably the most likely starter. Am I regretting it? I don't think I am. I think short-term fixtures for the next few weeks, maybe not the next one because they're playing West Ham away and West Ham are looking really good. But I think clean sheets will come for City. Yeah. It would make more sense. Udogie would have he was the other choice I was looking at, same as you. And he got 3 points more this week, but I just feel like City will keep more clean sheets. The only thing that I'm disappointed I didn't go for Udogie for is the cost, because I'd have a lot more in the bank, and I could have moved now because Martinelli's starting to wire me up. His stats don't back up what he's anything at all. His stats are pretty much online with it. The points he's given me, which is very few, and I would have had the money to go from Martinelli to Son, and that. If he carries on playing as the 9, feels like the move rather than to Maddison. But
I mean,
we'll see.
Son was new info, right? Because Richarlison, I think there were rumours that he had a bit of a knock from a midweek fixture, right? So I think that's the League Cup, right? And then he got a knock. So that's why he wasn't playing, apparently. So we didn't know Son was going to play 9, and we didn't know Son was going to smash a hat trick. So that's new info. So I don't think I don't think you can get hung up about the money in the bank that Udogie would have given you versus kind of Diaz. What I would say, because obviously this is all about us chatting through both our thought processes and how it's going to differ potentially this season. Whatnot. I know for a fact, based on the chats we've had before, last year you've got Martinelli out for a hit,
100%,
Sterling or a Madison, and I think
absolutely 100%.
I think fair play. It was a resisting that FOMO is in my opinion anyway a big part of the grinding style of play. So I'd say my style isn't flair. It's just grinding away of a series of kind of sensible, okay decisions, right? So I think, avoiding hits and keeping good players when you can is a good move. So I'm happy that came off you, mate. So I think that would be one where you would have been doing a hit last year. And Martinelli, it'd be interesting your views. I know we're going to do another pod probably and talk about our plans for game week 5, come late during the international break. But Martinelli could be a hold now because they got Everton and Jesus is back, and we know historically Jesus is the one who unlocks kind of a lot of Martinelli's stats. So I think that was a good play, keeping him.
Yeah,
I'm glad it came off.
It would have been for Sterling. I said on the pod last week, I'd go Maddison over Sterling, but that's only because of what you've told me in the weeks that came earlier. Last season, I'd have took the hit, and it would have been for Sterling because I'd have just gone, fixtures are better for Sterling, let's go for it. Whereas the underlying stats seem to favour Maddison a little bit. So I'd have been 7 points down. So those points you cost me with Onana early doors, you've clawed back. So there you go, you're back. I can't move on to the next screen without bringing up Matty Cash. So he's the other difference we had. I mean, I had last week. I had Baldock, and I had I wanted to play him. I thought Everton aren't scoring goals. But then your thought process of they're not scoring, but the stats say that they should, made me think, okay, maybe I should reconsider this and maybe go for the players that might give me a little bit more of an attack and return. So then it came as a toss-up between Cash and Estupiñán. I went for Cash because I think Newcastle's defence is better than Liverpool's defence. So I thought if anybody's going to score out of the two, Cash probably has the better chances. He also scored one in the cup midweek, so I thought maybe he's hit a bit of form. The full-time gift between Brighton and Newcastle, and Estupiñán comes out with 2 points. I'm thinking, what a decision that is. I've absolutely made the right call. Absolutely genius. Matty Cash is going to do it for me yet again. And then obviously he got me my second own goal of the week, him and Pickford, and they ended up on a -1. But I mean, overall, 70 points, 2 behind the average. I think it was 10 behind the safety. So I've red arrowed down from 74,000 to 227 overall. But to be honest with you, mate, it's 270 points, 227,000 going into the international break. It took me until about game week 20 last season to break the top million. And I ended up at about 45,000 there or thereabouts. So this, for me, is a strong start. So not a great game week, but overall over the 4 game weeks, I've got to be happy.
No, you've got to take over a couple of game weeks, right? Each one in isolation doesn't mean anything for you. And you're doing really well. And I mean, it's worth emphasizing you're one of the good guys as well. You started with Gabriel rather than Saliba.
There was no cheating. There was no cheating for me. Gabriel was there. I got rid of Stones just in time, but I think that came out very early, so I managed to get that one. But yeah, game week 4 as a further talking point. We obviously talked about the hat tricks. I've put up there. Obviously, Matty Cash is still an absolute legend. If I make myself feel better over the last 2 game weeks, he's got me an average of 8 points a week. So for working out like that, that's pretty good for a defender. 3 hat tricks. But I thought we'll do a little bit of review. Who were the best performers this game week? Also, who's been the best performers of the season so far? And then a little bit of an extended questions for Matt, which is probably quickly becoming my favourite part of this conversation, letting the those that listen to us firing their questions for you directly. Because why should I get all the fun? Let's let them take part as well. But yeah, what were your general thoughts of Game Week 4? Did anything happen that's made you reconsider what you're going to be doing going forward?
I kind of mentioned, not really. It was a very random game week. I think, like, in hindsight, like the lack of clean sheets and the like big XGs that like all teams are putting up, kind of like I would have probably, if I was with this info, if I was going for game week 1 again, I'd obviously not put much money in defense at all. But that's it's kind of like a little bit random. I think Liverpool are looking solid performance statistically and based on the result. They're looking pretty good. So I think, considering how we can get Liverpool players into our team, maybe not now, but in a couple of game weeks, I think is some new thinking. But I think it was nice to see some underperformers score. So I think last week we were saying that Sterling, Maddison, Foden, they're the hot midfielders, right?
Yeah.
If you're ignoring the likes of Momo and all the obvious people. But we said Eze and Danjuma were quite interesting ones, right? So it was nice to see both of them score, right? Because I think they're like, no one's got Danjuma, right? But like a few people got Eze. He was a really good pick. So, and he's like been frustrating because he's been underperforming. So it was nice for both of them to score. And like, there was a lot of freak results, right? So I've mentioned the City game. They actually statistically they won 5-1, but statistically, Fulham on another day would that match. I think that's quite a mad stat. But then I think I'm talking off the top of my head. You've probably got the actual stats, but a lot of the people who scored hat tricks, like Son, I think his XG was probably about 1. That's probably like I think for some of the other guys who got their hat tricks, it was like less than 1 kind of XG, and you got Jackson then who's probably got 1.5, right? So like it's kind of a random week really. So I didn't really learn too much, and like Chelsea versus Forest, we were both all in on Chelsea, right? 3 players,
2. I've just the 2 for me, but still expecting points that I didn't get.
Yeah, it was a tough one, but like again, I think if you look at single games, that had probably the biggest XG expected goals difference in Chelsea's favours out of all games that happened this game week. So it was a bit of a freak one. There was lots of kind of freak results. So
it's perfect time to bring up those stats, because there you go. That's the best performance of the week, and you've absolutely nailed what you were saying. So this is based on expected points for the game week in isolation. So you'll see that expected points for Son was 10.49, but he ended up bringing home 20. Not too bad. Haaland 11.61, also brought home 20, so basically doubled. Ferguson only an expected points of 8.4, and he ended up bringing home 17. So you've absolutely, exactly what you said there. They might have got hat tricks, but they were fortunate to maybe get 3 goals each.
Yeah, agree, and that's always the case with hat tricks, right? So, like, I mean, like if you benefit from them, everyone got Haaland, right? But if you had a Son, which some people might have, I don't think many people had Ferguson, but like, take it and embrace it and enjoy it, right? That's the nature of the game. But like, what I'm emphasizing, I think you're on board. I reckon, kind of, mate, is that a lot of this stuff, it evens itself out based on those underlying stats. So. I think the one exception, of course, is like Mbama, who just matches or slightly underperforms his stats, and it's just great every single week.
Exactly there. Expected 8.34, pulls in an 8.
But I think the learn here is don't be too reactive.
Yeah,
right? Don't take one game week in isolation and look at those freak results. Now, Son is the obvious kind of like person here that we're like talking about, and like obviously he's got some good fixtures. He's got a great fixture next, and then he's got a great fixture in game week 8, and then 2 tough ones in between. He's obviously a great player, a great pedigree. So for these guys, it doesn't matter. But like, I mean, I don't take it with a bit of pinch of salt what he did last week. He's not going to score 3 goals every week, right?
Yeah. Well, just to kind of emphasize that. So whereas this one is based on expected points. I've then got one which is all based on expected goals.
Okay.
Now, notice on the expected points, Jackson is nowhere to be seen. On expected goals, he's top. Now, he might not have got any goals, but he was expected to score based on the chances he got, 1.48. Whereas the Son, who got a hat-trick, expected 1 flat. Ferguson, who got a hat-trick, expected goals 0.85. So do we see that as Jackson being unlucky? Do we see it as Jackson just not being very good as a striker and putting the ball in the net? What are you viewing?
That's the worry, right? Is that he just can't score. Luckily, we've seen him score a goal, and he's still got good fixtures. The next 4 really good kind of fixtures for Chelsea from attacking point of view. The toughest game, I think, is Villa at home, I believe. I think so. He's got some good fixtures. So a small sample size, and he's been missing a lot of chances. But I think it's like a lot of typical pundit speak, right? If a striker's getting into the good positions, that's the thing that really matters. And then the luck is going to come if you keep getting into those positions. So yeah, Jackson, I've got no issues whatsoever with him. And again, Haaland, Son, they're kind of like good numbers here, but not to the extent of a hat trick. So that's down to luck or variance, as some people may say. And I think the delta, so the gap between this and the previous table, must be because of like total expected goal involvement, and it takes in yellow cards and stuff like that. Because I think Jackson got a yellow card, didn't he, as well, and probably had no
bonus points.
Whereas like Son probably had expected assists and potential clean sheet points. So I think that's why there's a difference here. But as a Jackson owner, I don't know what your takeaway here is. It's like we can be annoyed and frustrated, but like we can rest assured that we picked like a decent player who's performing well.
Based on last season, what I'd have done is I'd have got rid of him this week because he'd have frustrated me.
Third on the bench.
I'd be like, he turned up to training late, so I'm punishing him. You know what it reminds me of? Darwin Núñez last season. Just gets into positions and just doesn't put the ball in the net. Now, he's not quite as frantic, and I don't think he causes defences quite much of the headache as Darwin Núñez, who seems to be coming along. And it's very easy to jump from Jackson to Darwin Núñez if the time ever comes. Price point wise, but
I'm surprised at that. It's a good price, Darwin, isn't he? Actually,
just 7.4. But I mean, the worry with Darwin is Gakpo could play instead of him, Jota could play instead of him. So there's a lot of options. If I mean, touch wood, it doesn't happen. But if Salah goes, maybe it opens up a path for Núñez to come in. But at least with Jackson, whilst in Kunku's injured, you're probably getting a 90-minute player. I don't think you'll get that with Núñez. He went off in the 65th minute this week. So there's Liverpool just having an abundance of attacking options.
I agree. It'd be interesting if Salah goes. It does kind of open a whole host of like cheap options. I think almost everyone would have Diaz, Jota, and Núñez for sure. But on the Núñez one, it's quite interesting. Don't quote me on this because like someone might do some fact check and say you're talking complete nonsense here. But I believe, despite everyone saying the expected goals, he just is a bad finisher and whatnot, I think at the end of the season he was pretty much spot on with his XG because he had a run towards the end of the season where he was
not a chance that is true. As a Liverpool fan, if that is true, fair play, but that doesn't feel right.
As we chat, I'm gonna get my phone and see if I can get some stats.
Check it out. I feel like there was one game where we had it expected. He himself, not even Liverpool, he had expected goal of nearly 3 and scored 0. He was just so frustrated. I think it averaged
itself out over last year. Like I'm going to have a look at this.
I'll be surprised if it did, but check it out. But I mean, this week he got 2 assists. It started the game deservedly so after what he did against Newcastle. So in the last 2 weeks, he's got 2 goals, 2 assists. So looking good. This week he has an expected goal involvement. Just expected goal, should I say, 1.01. So could have quite easily gotten the score sheet. He hit the post for the shot that then came back off Matty Cash and went in. So a couple of inches to the left, and he gets a goal as well. But yeah, Jackson, just to go back to your question you asked me there, looking at the stats, last season I'd have got rid of him regardless. I wouldn't have even looked at this. But the fact that in the game week he's got the highest expected goals, I'll give him another week or 2. Let's put it that way, because I think the stats back up that he's got the potential. And I always like to think if you're a striker for a team that's going to be challenging for Europe in the top 4, you must have enough about you to put the ball in the net at some point in your career. So the fact that he's playing for Chelsea tells me he can't be a terrible finisher. So I'm willing to give him the chance. Did you find the stat?
Yeah, I was. That's what being quiet. Yeah, I was wrong on that. So I think, he scored 9 goals for expected goals of 13.8. So
it's quite a big
delta. But like Jackson's probably doing worse than that already, right? So even if he's like a really bad finisher, the goal should come, right?
Yeah, but this is 1 week in isolation.
Yeah,
this is then expected points, FPL points based on the season so far. So the players that should, in theory, have given us the most points to date. So this is the top 10. And nice to see Jackson's actually number 9. So massively underperforming his stats. He should, in theory, have points around the 26 mark. And he's only brought home 10 so far. But
makes. I mean, it's a good table. So this is one you got from Fix, and it's just around the expected points, and then it's got their actual points as well. So we got Haaland and Bomo, Fernandes, Saka, Salah, Cash, Bowen, Chilwell, Jackson, and Decore. So I think sometimes these tables that we've been like looking at the last couple of weeks haven't really said too much. They're not too informative because there's just such a small sample size, right? That a penalty or like a random chance that you get like will really skew it. But this is now looking, if you were to ask me who's performing well, a lot of these names would be on it. So it's a nice reflective list. I think the surprise is Decore, but we've kind of said when we were talking about Danjuma, right? The evidence that attack have been looking quite good. I mean, let's not lie, they're not Man City or a Brighton or a Liverpool or Brentford, right? But it's been looking all right. So Decore is the one surprise there. But like, I think we can look at this, and people may ask, like, you've got a good start this season. I've got a slightly tougher start because I'm like 1.6 mil or something like that. But like the points difference is marginal between us. But like, if you ask me, how can I still feel like good about myself and not too down about my thing? I can look at the plays that I've picked, and then I can look here. There's plays that have got great underlying stats that should have been performing like well from points and just being underperforming. So we've got the likes of Bruno Fernandes, right? Expected FPL points here, 30. He's only got 18 points, so decent return, but he's still underperforming. Likewise, we've got Chilwell. Chilwell's a massive one, actually. Wow. So we've got 15, and like this backs up. People say eye test versus stats. If you watch the matches and the highlights, you can tell that Chilwell's been dodging points massively, right, the last couple of game weeks. And yeah, his actual points 15, solid enough, but expected FPL points 26.5, pretty much. And you mentioned Jackson, 10 points actually scored, and then 26.4 kind of expected FPL points. So I think these are good reference points to kind of like reassure yourself that you're picking good players, and like it's just luck and chance that's result in you not doing well. I mean, on Bomo, it stands out like, wow, what a player! Kind of 30. Well, he's just behind Haaland in terms of expected points. Haaland's got 34.38 and Bomo 33.81. So marginal kind of difference there. But yeah, what a player! Like, you kind of just need to get him in if you haven't already. I think it's madness that 75% of people don't.
He's only 25% owned. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's because he's not a
sexy name
and well-known pick. Do you know what I mean? I think even if you had, like, obviously doesn't play for one of the big teams, right? But I think even like someone like Matoma, because he's got great highlights. I think if he was putting up these performances, his ownership would be 40-50%. So he's a 90-minute man on penalties, a super attacking team. Still has mixed, pretty good fixtures, right? So I think he's been a really good pick, and I think it's just a kind of must-have. Salah's creeping up there as well, right? So 23 points scored over the first 4 game weeks, and then pretty much 27 expected points. So he's underperforming his expected kind of points. But kind of mentioned it before. I think I'm hoping from an FPL point of view. Obviously, you've got a vested interest being a pool fan, but like from FPL perspective, if he went, it makes it kind of really interesting. kind of given those other super attacking Liverpool team and open up the chances with those other midfield and striker options. But Salah, if he stays, I think he's ticking away quite nicely and has had difficult fixtures, right? So I think he'll come into the equation, no doubt.
Yeah, he's got an attack and return every game so far, and as you say, away at Chelsea, away at Newcastle, at home to Villa. Is Villa a good side? I'm surprised how comfortable it was.
It's looking good. Yeah. Well. It's looking good, and like this table looks good for your picks, right? Because you're one better than me because you got cash on it, so you pretty much
got cash. Big Matty. Big Matty. I mean, let me down this week, but overall, I think I played him 3 out of the 4 game weeks. He got a clean sheet in 1. He got 2 goals in 1. I can let him off with 1 poor performance. He's still in my good books for overall. We'll see how he does again at home to Palace, and if he lets me down again, I'll maybe stop shouting about him. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with this table. Yeah. Bruno has dropped in price, which I get because like the points he's actually achieved is way under what he should be getting. But I'm quite happy people are selling him. He's dropped that down to 8.4, and okay, I've lost 0.1 million in value. But United's run of fixtures coming up is absolutely incredible. His stats are there. He's underperformed by 12 points, but he's doing the right things. And in their next run of fixtures, Brighton at home. Tough game, Brighton, no question, even at home, but at least they're at Old Trafford. But you've got Brighton, Burnley, Palace, Brentford at home, Sheffield United. I am more than happy to keep him for those 5 games.
No, I agree. And let's be honest, like, let's not beat around the bush. He should have got, it says here 30 points in the first 4 game weeks, that's mad if you calculate the points per game there. He's got 18 points in 4 game weeks. That's like what, 4.5 points per week. That's not even bad. That's a nice, solid kind of performance, right? And like you said, the fixtures are really good. And you called out the Brighton game. Brighton is great from an attacking point of view. So for a midfielder, it don't matter how solid, how good the team is. You're looking purely can your attacker score, and like Brighton's a good kind of like fixture from a attacking point of view. And then United's attack. I'm quite big into my team stats as well. I think that's kind of really informative of who's doing well and what fixtures are the ones to target. And like United's attack has been running pretty hot in terms of those underlying stats. It's a good attack. It's like a top 6, top 5 attack, right? And then obviously with Højlund in the side now, he looked like a handful. That gives him more structure. It gives someone for Fernandes to kind of target. So I get it. There's other good picks. There's your Sons, there's your Madisons, but I wouldn't be getting Fernandes out. I think he's a solid absolutely hold for me.
I think the reason people are maybe moving him on is most of those points came in 1 game week. I think he's blanked in 3 and returned in 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was getting rid of him or Rashford, I'd probably end up getting rid of Rashford. I'm going to keep both. Don't get me wrong. Just to see how I do those 5 fixtures. I'm quite happy to have both of them. So Martinelli's my headache at the minute because the stats are not backing him up.
I agree. I think Rashford out over Fernandes, but ideally keep them both. And for your team personally, Martinelli. So I did a little kind of making fun, a little teasing post on kind of Twitter that I think went over some people's heads. But I was looking at the Arsenal mids, so looking at their expected performances, and they've been really bad, really generally speaking. So Saka's been good. So his his non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90. So if he was to play 90 minutes of the games and not get any pens there, 0.68. So that's really good. That's near elite stats. So as you expect from kind of Saka. Havertz, you kind of went with in game week 1, 0.4, which is not bad. Martinelli, 0.3, that's not great at all. But then Odegaard, 0.15, which is that's what you would expect Casemiro or Declan Rice or a deep line holding midfielder to kind of have, right? So those Arsenal mids haven't been, outside of Saka, haven't been great statistically. And again, I'm gonna use that to reassure myself, hey, Havertz was a great pick.
You're picking the right one.
Wasn't so great, but yeah, Martinelli I think is you got a form of view of whether Jesus is going to make a difference, and they've got Everton next, but I think he's probably the one out of those three mids that you've got.
Yeah.
I'd be putting him on the watch list. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a quick look. I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss this next week, but I had a quick look, and Rice has more of a expected FPL return than Martinelli. And as you say, Rice is playing in the DM position.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely on my watch list. But we'll move over to my favourite part, which is questions for Matt. Now, I did introduce transfer question of the week, and then I've already put two on. I promise I'm not going to just make this longer and longer for you every week. This is just a one-off as we're not going to discuss what we're doing next week until the second part of the international game week. But a big shout out to regulars for submitting this week. So you've got No Brain, Just Aim, 3713. If I'm saying that wrong, let me know. But 3713 is what I'm going for. And then at Cage Paps. But 3 questions really. Then we'll move on to those transfer ones. But you've got, how do you deal with being priced out of a move based on price movements? So the example that was given was you were discussing the idea of bringing in Sterling earlier to try and then get the price difference to get to Trippier.
Yep.
Because you wanted to wait, see if any injuries came, you got priced out of that move. So when would you take that gamble, or would you just never take that gamble?
Well, Sterling apparently got injured, didn't he? He got injured, he recovered, he made a remarkable recovery in a day. Everything happens within that week. I mean, the thing with the Sterling to Trippier move, well, not Sterling to Trippier, habits to kind of Sterling enabling me to then get Trippier for someone like Estupiñán this week. It wasn't just a dependency on, like, I had no wriggle room. Do you know what I mean? That's 2 transfers over like 3 weeks because the international break, right? Yeah. I'd have to move for Sterling straight away, and then like Saturday night, as soon as game week 4 started, I'd have to pull the trigger on Estupiñán to Trippier, right? So it was so tight, and like the time frame between now and the next game week was just so long. It just didn't make sense, right? To make those really early moves, right? Because there's so much time for new info. So in that case, I thought, whatever, I'm not going to take that risk because it's going to be too tight over such a long period. So I'll wait for that kind of further info. So I could have probably gone for Sterling a night before, and I would have got like save 0.1, but like it is what it is. I think I was committed to kind of receiving more info because like I didn't want to feel like a fool and like a random player like Shaw got injured. So I always flavor that like that additional info. And how I get over it is there's always alternatives, right? So what I reassured myself around, hey, Trippier, it's probably too tight. Even if I got Sterling before the price rise, it's probably still going to be too tight for Trippier, given it's an international break. I reassured myself by saying, hey, I can get Shaw. Obviously, he's not Trippier, but he's that's a way into the Newcastle defence. He's also got some attacking threat. He could outscore Trippier over like a couple of game weeks. Also, there are loads of other kind of options I could go for as well in defence. I could go Udogie, for example, right? So yeah, I kind of just reassure myself that there's always other options in my opinion. When would I go for a move? If I was desperate to get Sterling last week and I had no money in the bank to do it, I did have money in the bank, but if I had no money to do it and I was adamant Sterling was my long-term pick, I would have made the move early, right? The reason why I didn't do it was just because I think there's flexible options elsewhere, and also there was just a few knock-on dependencies, right? That meant that I wasn't just making a bet for an early transfer this week. I'd have to make an early bet next week as well. So like I will do those early moves, like, but by exception.
So if it's a long-term pick and it's a one-off, just one transfer, not 2, potentially go for it as long as it's a long-term pick.
Yeah.
But if it's over 2 weeks, or it's going to involve a points hit if you do it now, probably it's not worth it.
No, 100%. And you touched a good point there. Yeah. I think these early moves, they're easier to do when you have 2 free transfers, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's not great play, right? Because 2 free transfers is quite powerful. But if you've got that extra free transfer, if for whatever reason there's the late injury news for some other player, right, you've got that other free transfer to adjust, right? So if I do go early, like I normally do it when I got 2 free transfers because it gives me that security blanket as well.
Yeah. Got you. You kind of vaguely touched on question 2 without meaning to, which is all about buying players to cover a team. So whether that be covering an attack or covering a defense. So you mentioned Trippier there, but you could have went for Shaw instead of if you haven't got a Sterling, for example, could you then bring in another Chelsea attacker just as a way as covering the team? So do you do that? Is that something you do, or do you just think no, it's about the player, not the team?
It's a really good question, and like, sorry if the answers are pretty poor because these are all coming in raw, aren't they? There's no,
that's how we like it. Just your initial thoughts. That's what gets us the good information.
But I think
Dominoes.
Yeah, that's why I'm feeling so a little bit lethargic. I went for the 2 for Tuesday, so like this isn't a sponsored pod.
No, it's not.
Like,
Dominoes are not.
Dominoes, if you are interested, we are both fans. So,
and if you're not interested, other pizza firms are available.
So I think my decision making is normally based on the team first and foremost. So like way back when we first like chatted in pre-season, right, we were talking about like let's look at the fixtures first and like form a view of who's got some solid fixtures. So I'll form a view of what team are in good form, what teams are good, what teams have got easy fixtures. So I'll be drawing like a short list. I want to be targeting players in these teams, right? So I start with the teams, but then I look at the players within those teams and see who are options, right? And I won't just get a random player to kind of cover a team. I will go for who I think are the best teams and then go for the most nailed, best performing players in said team. So, and then once I've made those decisions once I've done the short list of teams, I kind of view the players in isolation, right? So if I reverse the question, some people ask, are you concerned getting too many people within one team, right? So some people are like, I don't want to go Sterling. I want to go Maddison because I've already got Jackson, right? So I don't want to be too overvested in kind of like Chelsea's attack. I don't believe that. So once you've identified a good team, like view each player in isolation, right? Like it does. Having Sterling, there isn't a knock-on effect or dependency on whether Jackson is good and kind of vice versa. So I'll identify a team, a short list of teams with good fixtures, good form, just generally good teams, and then I will look at the best players from those individual teams. So for example, like I'm talking about, I kind of mentioned Trippier, an alternative for Trippier is Shaw. That's because Newcastle, good team, good fixtures on paper anyway, solid defense. Shaw is also a good player in his own right with attacking threat historically. Alternatives, Udogie, right? And because I'm looking at Spurs, bear with me, humour me. I know they've got some mixed fixtures, but let's pretend they've got good fixtures. I'm looking at Udogie. But am I looking at Romero? Am I looking at other defenders for Spurs? Probably not, because Udogie kind of stands out as that kind of attacking threat, right? So, yeah, like I look at the teams, but then I look at the players in isolation. Likewise, United, we spoke about, they've got good fixtures. Rashford and Fernandes, by far the best 2 players in that team from an attacking point of view, just generally speaking, but also based on stats. I'm not going to get Anthony, right, for coverage.
Yeah,
I think actually I did see some people at the beginning of the season. I'm going to get Garnacho for United coverage. Yeah, I don't play that sort of game. So I look at the teams, then I make my shortlist there, and then I look at the players on their individual pros and cons.
Yeah. But so the Shaw cover for Trippier is purely because you feel Shaw can deliver, not just to cover Newcastle defence.
Yeah. Of course, Newcastle good, but it's not purely coverage. I've identified them good, that they're a good defence, good fixtures. But then it's like, Shaw is I reckon he'll do quite well anyway in his own rights.
Yeah, got you. And the last one then, the last question, you kind of touched on this earlier. So is there a game week identified for the wild card? Now you mentioned game week 9.
Yeah.
So what draws you to that? What draws you to game week 9 in particular? I appreciate the answer will be it depends on your own team, not just what you're doing, because you're in a very different position to everybody else.
Yeah.
But what is it? What is it specifically about a game week that you look for? Is it purely fixture swings?
Yeah. So yeah, game week 9 I'm targeting and probably have done since the beginning of the season. So it's been influenced a lot of my thinking and approach to moves. And that's why I got Sterling in this week for Havertz rather than Madison, because Sterling has the better fixtures up until game week 8, and then game week 9 I'll obviously can like wild card. And I'd say I'm never certain on these things, but I'm probably about 50% certain that I'll do it there. So I've still got a bit of flexibility that I can exit from that plan, but that's where my head is at the moment. I think game week 14, 15 is another alternative that I've looked at. So yeah, kind of really the things that I look at are fixture swings for highly owned teams with like highly owned players and good teams, right? So if I'm looking at game week 9, there's a big swing for Chelsea. I've got Chelsea players. I think every game is an okay game for Man City, but there's a fixture swing for Man City. And in the opposite direction, there's great fixture swings for the likes of Villa.
Mm-hmm.
I think West Ham as well. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember kind of West Ham being there. And also Liverpool, right? So so there's a swing. There's a swing of fixtures for highly owned kind of players, and it comes at a natural break as well. So I think game week 8, 9, that period where I'd be potentially activating my wild card. There's an international break, and this is like lesser of an influence for me over those fixture swings. But international break is a nice time with the injuries and whatnot, and like kind of more info to like settle on. And I think final point on why game week 9 and not earlier is just I don't know who the hell is good at the moment.
Yeah.
Like every time we've spoken, it's like there's been some consistent trends, but like this player, this team are hot. Like by end of game week 8, going into game week 9, hopefully we'll have a better view of like the trends, right? Who's nailed, who's looking good, what team has actually got a good defense, that sort of stuff. So I kind of I won't be doing one now because one, I didn't plan for it, but also just doing there's enough info to kind of confidently go in with your selections.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, last week, Son was new to the front. Not Son, Sterling was new to the front. Nobody was really talking about Sterling, and then he gets 2 goals and an assist, and everybody automatically, well, we best bring Sterling in. So, kind of probably brings us on to our first question from FPL Andy Pandy. So, obviously, Son is now on the agenda. Prior to his hat-trick at the weekend, nobody was bigging up Son because he had 0 returns. So his transfer question is around Son, Bowen, and Salah. You've kind of touched on Salah already, but are they in your thinking for potentially upcoming transfers?
Not imminent. So Son or Madison are on my radar for game week 8. Game week 8 is when Spurs play Luton away, and Arsenal, I think, have got City at home. So I'm eyeing up a potential Saka to Son or Saka to Madison move them. So, yep, they're on my radar, but not short term. Bowen, no, just because of the fixtures at the moment for West Ham. But like on wildcard, yes, potentially. I'll have to look at like how West Ham's fixtures exactly look like. But Bowen's a good player for a kind of like solid team. We think he's on penalties. Maybe we'll have to check in Ward Prowse's, but like. Yeah, Bowen potentially for wildcard, and Salah, yeah, most certainly. If he's still at Liverpool, come game, if I was to wildcard, he'd be in my team for game week 9. But like, I'm not going to get him before then, just because I would like to have him in because the fixtures in Liverpool are starting to look good, and Salah's been ticking away. But it's going to take major surgery to get him in, so I'm not going to do it before then. But he's on my radar and shortlist for a game week 9 wildcard for sure.
Yeah, he'll still be here. Don't you worry about that. He's going nowhere.
As a Liverpool fan, I know it says questions for me, but questions for you, mate. Obviously, Klopp does like saying, "Hey, we're this tough budget position and stuff like that. We can't compete with the other teams." Will they ever be able to say that again if they turn down a £220 million bid for a 31-year-old, 32-year-old?
Yeah, because we sold Coutinho for 140 million and still said it. So it's we'll say it regardless of how much we get in the pot. My brother,
I reckon your attack is good. I reckon I think Nunes is a fantastic player, and actually, like Salah being in the team means that like he's rotated too much. I think it could be an interesting opportunity. Obviously, late in the day in it, so it's like a shame you can't get a replacement like a Bowen or a Rafinha. But I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, I think we'll. I don't think he'll go this summer. I think he'll probably go next summer. I think they'll come in. They might not offer us 215 million, but they'll probably still offer us 100 million plus, and then we'll have time to replace him.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably, and then he'll be 32. He'll only have a year left on his contract. As I say, we'll have time to then do our scouting this year and bring in his replacement. So yeah, I can see this probably being, unfortunately, Mo Salah's last season at Liverpool. It's probably been
best fantasy asset ever as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it. It'll be a miss to the game. But last question, transfer question, and again another one you've touched on by pure chance. But Kyrie, I'm going to say, sorry if I'm saying that wrong again. Kyrie Irving. I get the player names wrong. I'm probably going to get that wrong as well. But if you're aiming to get Son for game week 8, which from the sounds of it, it's him or Madison for you, so you are looking at that. I appreciate you're basically saying you wouldn't get him now to avoid the price rise, or getting him at home for game week 5 when he's at home to Sheffield United. Do you think that's a bad move? And if so, why?
I don't think it's a bad move, but like team dependent. So on my team, I'm not going to do that because I'm quite happy with my midfield options anyway. And I don't need to beat a price rise because the player I'm targeted to move out for game week 8, if I'm dead ending my team, is Saka.
Yeah.
Saka's like the price difference between Saka and Son is not a lot at all, and I've got like over $1 million in my bank. So
yeah,
unless something massive happens, like it's not. I'm not going to be outpriced on that move, and if I am, there's always an alternative. I'll get Madison instead for that game. So yeah, I'm quite cool with it. But like team dependence. That's my team, right? So I'm not going to do it. But is it a bad move? No. Like if you want to get Son, I'm going to say kind of by extension Madison because they're both kind of great options. Is it a bad move getting them now to beat price rises? If you're getting like risk that you can't bring them in, just bring them in. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, obviously a good fixture next week. I think Sheffield United are going to be tougher than Burnley. So Burnley have come up in that. Norwich a few years ago, like that naive approach where they're going to be like super open and like fluid football, but just like they have no defensive solidarity. It seems like Burnley were probably the best promoted team, but they're just being a bit naive, right? So they were super open. They played right into Son's Spurs and indeed like Son's like strength. So I think Sheffield United will be a tougher game. I don't think they're going to score 5 against Sheffield United, but it's a good game. So you got that good game next, and then the Liverpool and Arsenal fixtures. Liverpool, as we know, aren't great defensively. I'm sorry, like I'm going to wind you up being a Liverpool fan, but like Alisson,
absolutely no.
Alisson bails them out every single game.
Especially, it's interesting, isn't it? The first game we play without Van Dijk because he's suspended, clean sheet. I'm not saying that Van Dijk shouldn't be starting, by the way, so he definitely should be. But obviously, we have to play differently defensively, and we managed to keep Aston Villa pretty quiet. But our left, it's our right. So Trent is amazing, and again, a player that definitely should be on the pitch for what he can do going forward. But defensively, with every teams just attack him, and they get in time and time again. It's not comfortable being a Liverpool fan watching people attack our defence because they get in too easy. But you're right, Alisson is for me probably the best keeper in the world, and saves us. Newcastle would have been out of sight if it wasn't for Alisson.
I think I agree on that. I like FPL wise, bring it back to FPL.
Yeah,
it's kind of mad. I'd never really consider Alisson as a goalkeeper option. Yet every single season he outscores Edison, like as another like premium kind of keeper pick. And because Edison concedes these annoying like last minute goals and also never gets like save points, whereas like Alisson does like quite consistently. So yeah, it's interesting why I never really consider him as a FPL asset. But yeah. The point I was making is that for Son and by extension kind of Madison, Sheffield United, good game, good fixture. From an attacking point of view, Liverpool's all right from an attacking point of view. We'll see if they like continue to perform better like defensively, but like generally speaking, for months they've been pretty poor defensively. And Arsenal, yeah, that's a tough fixture. But like Son is good against these high lines, right? And then they have Luton. So getting in Son or Madison now, yeah, it's a good move. It's a good move. But like, yeah, for me, I'm not gonna do it. But that's team dependent.
Yeah. I'm with you. Whereas for a team like mine, where I've got Martinelli in the midfield,
Hmm.
and I've not really got many other transfers I need to make, maybe a early move to Madison. I can't afford Son. I'd be going for Son, but I can't afford him. But Madison,
Yeah.
I'm quite comfortable with Madison.
Well, Madison's been great, right? Madison,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I kind of said how he outperformed stats, like 0.33
Yeah.
last weekend, but he's had great stats all season, like close to nearly one expected goal involvement per game, which is great, and he's just a very good player as well. So Madison he could be the better option than Son. He's not going to score a hat trick like that every single game week, right? So they're both great great options. I mean, we'll talk about it next when we catch up again. Like, but yeah, Martinelli, whether you actually need to get rid of him when they've got Everton, and Pickford's next game week, rolling transfers is value as well. There's hidden invisible points gained from like saving a transfer, right? When you have two going into it, you can like react to any changes, you can react to any injuries, right? You can make major surgery on your team. Rolling a transfer is kind of probably worth these hidden points, right? Just to kind of give you that flexibility. So I'm
not set on making that move. I just thought we didn't touch, when we were looking at our teams, we didn't touch at all on the fact that Pickford got 1 point, despite scoring an own goal, by the way, which was an absolutely great return considering he conceded 2 and got an own goal. Turner sat on both of our benches on 5. Now, I'm assuming we didn't touch on that because none of us in reality were ever going to play Turner away at Chelsea.
No.
But the reason I bring that up is a lot of people get worked up on that. My brother texted me, right? My brother had James Ward-Prowse as his captain up until the last minute and changed it to Haaland. Ward-Prowse then gets a goal and he texts me like, I can't believe I changed my captain from Ward-Prowse to Haaland. This was before Haaland obviously went and banged in a hat-trick. But I'm like, in reality, you were never going to do it, so don't get worked up on it. So do you look at your bench ever and see 15 points for a player or whatever it may be? I might be exaggerating with 15 points and get wound up, even though you probably weren't ever going to put them on the pitch, or do you just be like, well, it's a lucky game week? That's a question from me. I've just added in.
If there's 50-50 chance, yeah. Do you know what I mean? If it was like flipping a coin if I'm going to start a player or not, then it's annoying. But Turner over Pickford, you're never going to do that. So it's like, I'm cool with that. But I'm hoping you're like in a bit of a money league with your brother. Like we've got some money going on there. With Ward-Prowse.
You know what? I wish I had because it's a league. There's about 20 of us in the league.
Yeah.
And we're about 11. This is about a 12th season. And I usually do all right, but there's no money. It's purely just for pride. But yeah, well, maybe I'll talk them into money next season. We'll see how we get on this season. There's a lad in it who finished 24,000th last season and won it. So I'll see how he gets on this season before I start talking about money.
That's a solid rank. I think. It's early, but I reckon. Where are your targets? Are you still like top 10k? Is the target
for this? I've got to in reality just to get my highest ever finish. So if I can break the 40,000 mark, I'll be happy. That's not to take less pressure off you to help me get 10,000. By the way, I'd love a 10,000 finish. But obviously, more of the community are engaged. There's more stats than there's ever been before. So in reality, you heard the community say top 25,000 is like the new top 10,000. But I want a top 10,000 to finish with four numbers as my end rank is like, that's what I want on the old CV. But if I finish the season with just my highest rank yet, which would be top 4, just it's about 43,000 my best finish. So if I can beat that, I'll be fairly happy with the season.
No, it's been a really good start. I think like you've got every chance of getting that.
I suppose my last question. I'm throwing in another question. I saw somebody on Twitter say, if you're not in the top 2 million now, you have got 0 chance of finishing in the top 10k. Right now, you're 1.6 million, so you're within the 2 million, granted. But like how from this point, Like, your finishes, your worst ever finish is about 22,000. After
Yeah.
4 game weeks, what's been your worst rank that you remember?
But I say that post is probably just like a bit of tongue in cheek, like me saying Havertz is a
Yeah,
must have. So I
It
reckon
was. I
that
think
was
it definitely
obviously
was him taking the mic.
being sarcastic. And it's always good when there's like when these things go over people's heads. So I reckon that was like tongue in cheek of course, is like making fun of the situation where some people say, "Oh, I'm really low ranked at the moment. How am I going to save my team? I need to delete it." So it's probably something that doing a bit of a piss take. But,
I think he put a fishing rod as his next post, so it was definitely taking the mic.
Fair enough. But I think I've had 2 very good starts last season where I finished 17k, which sounds good, but like, I'm gonna sound arrogant now. That was my worst finish since I've kind of started playing like seriously. My first season, I'll discount, but I had a great start. I think I was probably in the top 25k by now, certainly the top 100k. But I just treaded water the whole time, so I didn't really know what really happened there. So that good start didn't really assist me, right? My best ever finish was the year before last, when I was like 1,000 kind of like ranks, or 1k rank. I had a fast finish, a fast start, sorry, and kind of like went a little bit better, but it wasn't. I think it was probably about top 200k by now, and then like steadily kind of got better and better. All my other finishes, and like I think I've finished in the top 5k like 5 or 6 times in like 8 seasons, something like that. I've been a slow starter, not to this extent, but that's because there's just so many extra players, right? But like there were still probably 7 million active players back a couple of years ago. I would be targeting loosely a milestone in my mind is get in around the top 100k by Christmas time, and then you're doing pretty good.
Top 100k by Christmas. Okay, that is the aim.
Or probably it could be extended to top 200, really. Like it's kind of like I said, we all know it's like super early and it's super quite bunched, and like the good players that are like ahead of us, because there's people who've got random picks, right? Do you know what I mean? Like Matty Cash, triple captain. I know you attempted to do it, but there'll be people who've done that. There'll be people with their bench boost and stuff like that who are high up. Like let's ignore those things, but they're like the good players who are like, no, you're doing really, really well. So you're a bit ahead of me, and I think it's like Cash is the difference there. He was a good pick. He was playing as a winger, so fair play. But other good players who are ahead, I'm looking at their differences in pick, and it's like it is the Saliba versus Gabriel pick, which is like 12 net points and an extra transfer like swing, and then it's just like a random return. It could be an Alvarez over a Jackson, which we know could have gone the other way. It's a Udogi or a Gusto pick over a Diaz or another kind of defender. So these are kind of like random things, right? So it's like there's it's going to be tough, right? You don't want the gap to increase, but like these things you can easily kind of come back from them. So like I think I've had ranks around this kind of similar rank at this stage before and finished in top 5k. 100k by Christmas I think is a nice like baseline.
No, that's good. It's just I think a lot of people might see a rank that they're not too happy with, and it's good to know that there's 34 game weeks left to play. Right, there's every chance every chance to bring that down. We're not even anywhere near a quarter of the way through the season, so still a lot of points to play for, right?
Oh yeah, I mean like. But still, like you kind of want to keep that gap manageable. So it's points rather than ranks. Like so, a 20-point gap to like good players in your mini leagues. It is tough, right? You're gonna have to be on it with your decisions and have a bit of luck to kind of claw it back. Let's be honest. And it's not
great. The pressure on me to beat you.
I think like you've got every chance now. Like given that. Like, so what are you, 15 points ahead of me? 20 points?
23, but that's one, just to put that into context, that's 1.4 million places in 23 points. That's how compact it is.
So ignore the rants at points. Like, you're playing well. Like, you've played well before. Like, if you keep at it, I'm gonna have to be on top of my game to close out 25 point. point gap.
He's
So
talking nonsense
like
to the listener. He's talking absolute nonsense. See, it's like, we'll
uh,
see. We'll see how we get on. We'll see. Yeah, well, I'll play that. I just won't do my mad picks like when I made Sterling captain last season when he wasn't really doing anything. So I'll stay away from those sort of decisions. Hopefully, I'll jump a little bit.
stay true to yourself though. Do a few of them. I'm gonna need it to catch up with you.
Well, as I say, game week 5, I don't see, considering knowing who my team will probably be, I don't think Haaland's going to be my captain. Away at West Ham.
Who's cash playing?
Crystal Palace at home. So, would I rather have cash at home to Palace? No, because I think Palace are probably good enough to get a goal there. But I don't mind Saka. I might bring in Maddison for Martinelli. I might not, but if I do, in my home to Sheffield United, it's not a bad move. We'll see. We'll see. We'll discuss that game week. We'll discuss that next week. But yeah, that brings us cliffhanger. See that cliffhanger. You tune in next week to find out who Dave's going to captain.
You got me hooked. And we know what it's going to be. Is it Mbamo? Is it Saka? Is it Madison? Nah, it's Haaland.
It's Haaland. He just decided to absolutely bottle it. But you've got to come back. So thank you, Matt. That brings us to the end. Firstly, thank you to the listener. I did want to say, bit of terrible setup on the slide here, but I did want to say massive thank you to firstly at FPL Focal and also at FPL Matt W. They've big supporters of Matt on Twitter, sharing this stream, sharing our Spotify playlists, and really promoting us. So just a big thank you to them for doing so.
Cheers, guys. I appreciate the kind of little promo posts and reposts. It's certainly helped get us some coverage. So yeah, appreciate that, guys. And the formatting on this is great. It's like
the form. I don't know why there's a big gap between.
Breath.
Yeah. Thank you to so dramatic effect. But to you for listening, for you for watching. Hopefully we've added some value. So if we have, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button just so you can find us again, show your support, and hopefully get us on a few other people's home screens so they can get the support as well from a little bit from myself, but mainly from the main man, Matt Corbidge. But thank you to you, Matt, for joining us. Hopefully it's been a good week and we will meet again next week to discuss game plans for game week 5. Are you throwing in a curveball for it, or you're Haaland?
It's really bad content, isn't it? Like now that we're content producers, I need to be a bit more exciting, but I might just be holding.
Right. Okay. Well,
is that or a defender in? Like, so yeah, not massively exciting. But actually, curveball. It could be Son in.
It could be Son, right? And this
it could be anyone, yeah. But,
Danjuma. Get Decore.
Decore. The stats say it. We're a stats-led pod, aren't we? So
he's in next week. See you later, Saka. But no, brilliant. Well, I look forward to finding out who it is. And for you, the listener, thank you for joining us again. Best of luck for, I was going to say best of luck for the week. There isn't one. It's international. Enjoy your week off. Enjoy mulling over every day like me for at least 20 minutes a day over the team and plan transfers. And we'll catch up with you next time as we look ahead at game week 5. Until then, all the best.